Welcome back to Red Devils TV, and in today's episode we have got a very special guest, the one and only Mr. Double A FC. Now, good friend of mine, been talking on and off behind camera for a few weeks now, and it's something we wanted to make happen. So here we are talking about probably one of the most controversial starts in Manchester United's recent history. 2 wins, 2 losses, and in this episode we are going to be discussing the first 4 games on and off-field issues, and I brought the perfect person in this video to talk about it. So, Aaron, Double A, FC, however you want me to address you as, let's just get right into this video. So let's obviously talk about the first start of the game, and that was Man United versus Wolves. So, everyone, make sure you get in the comments in below and talking about what you think of Man United's start so far to the season. So, I'll ask you first. Obviously, we'll talk about pre-season just before the season actually started. What were your thoughts coming in out of pre-season into the new season, and were you excited about certain players? Were you excited with the way we played football? What were your overall thoughts on pre-season?
Worried, if I'm being massively honest. I think we expected a lot going off the end of last season, and Ten Hag's great first season. We couldn't have expected more. I didn't expect more than what he gave us. I think it was a perfect starting point for him coming into the season before last was the worst ever Manchester United Premier League team ever, lowest points, and I don't think we could feel any lower. And him coming in and changing that mood and breathing life into Old Trafford and Manchester United and a lot of these players was absolutely fantastic. So going off the back of that, you're expecting or you're wanting a massive summer. You're wanting him to be backed and get the players he wants first of all, and then what's best for the team, if that obviously coincides with the manager's thoughts. And he was let down from day one, really. It took almost 8 weeks, was it, to get Mason Mount, who, for me, I'm not enamoured by. I don't think he's a signing I would personally have wanted. Again, you have to back the manager in stuff like that. Where it remains to be seen whether he's going to be a success or not. Personally, I'll be honest. I think he's going to be the flop of the season. I've said it already. I just think he's going to be. I've not seen anything to suggest that he could take this team forward, and he is what we need. He's an upgraded Eriksen, and we didn't need an Eriksen. But other than that, I think it took far too long to get anyone else in. Onana, it took far too long, and Højlund, it took far too long. And then you're scrambling at the last day. We signed 4 players on the last day, which is very much in Manchester United's MO. Pre-season was a bit of a damp squib, I think. Apart from the Arsenal game, which was fantastic, but we've seen that meant nothing after Sunday. It was worrying, mate, and I think we've seen the form, we've seen how the players have been and the results, and it was worrying, mate. And it's to be expected. It's second season syndrome with Manchester United. It's following the same pattern we see a lot. But for me, I feel sorry for Ten Hag because he deserves so much better, and the club have let him down.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, pal. And obviously, like you said, pre-season was very worrying. And for me, I wasn't very convinced. We did go up against quite a few difficult games, you could say. We did go up against Real Madrid and Dortmund. And what I wasn't overly convinced by throughout pre-season was the fact that one game we'd play the first team and the other game we'd play the reserves, and there was no chemistry building in. Erik ten Hag, every time he played in the first half, he played the first team, then second half he played the second team, and in total I think I read a stat where the first team only played 215 minutes together throughout the entirety of pre-season, which for me just isn't enough when you want to work on, like, Erik ten Hag. He went through the entirety of pre-season trying this 3-1-6 formation, which was supposed to suppress teams, put them on the back foot and force them into a low block foot fight type tactics. And we just haven't worked on it enough. And then we've come into the Premier League. We somehow won against Wolves with a moment of brilliance from Varane. And then we lost to Spurs. We won very unconvincingly against Nottingham Forest by going 2 goals down in the first 5 minutes. And then like you said, Arsenal was a bit more of an improved game, but nothing happened from it. We still lost the game. We didn't get any points. And that's where it was disheartening, you could say. But for pre-season, there was a player that did stand out, and I am really gutted he is injured, and that is Kobbie Mainoo, because I've said to quite a few United fans now that, do you think we would have signed Amrabat now if Kobbie Mainoo was fit? because I don't think we would have. I think Amrabat, because Kobe Mainoo is expected to be out until late November. That's why I think we brought in Amrabat for that defensive cover, because it's clear the Mason Mount sign hasn't worked. So Eric Snag needed another defensive midfielder, but you could also twist it to the fact that he expected a player like McTominay and Fred to go, and Amrabat was that replacement. So, what are your thoughts on like the outgoings and obviously the incomings at the same time, and obviously as well, if you mentioned Kobe Mainoo as well?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start with a window, mate, I mean, I've been getting some pelters on Twitter and stuff. 3 out of 10. It's an absolutely terrible window for me. It's not, the man, and you start off going way back before we've even signed any players. We've scouted Kim Min Jae for months and months, most of last season. Don't even put an offer in for him. He goes to Bayern Munich. So straight away, the manager's not getting his first choice signings, which happened to him last season. But last season, I think he really looked out in the replacements. I think if you look at, we went for Timber, but we got Martinez. I think that was probably the better signing. Casemiro, I've got a Brazil shirt on. Obviously, Brazil and my national team. So Casemiro, I absolutely love, and the fact he came in was brilliant for me, and I think he proved to be what we've been missing for a number of years. And all of his signings did well in that first season. This season, I think we're up against it. And like I say, Kane was never going to start, and I think that you believe that's the player he wanted. And for me, I think he would have kept De Gea. I think De Gea would have stayed. I don't think Onana was on the radar because, and the reason why I say this, and a lot of fans think, well, he wanted him, so he got him, which is fair. But if Ten Hag wanted De Gea to go, he gets told in January. You don't let his contract run down. You let De Gea go, and he's still not got a club. So if you're going to get rid of him, you tell him way before time, so you can plan for who you're going to bring in, and then De Gea can sort himself out. Go and talk to foreign clubs in January and sort himself out and move that way. I just think it was all scattergun, and I think the Kim Min Jae thing didn't happen, and then the managers thought, right, well, I've got 40 million there I can play with, which will get me a Nana, so I can let De Gea go. The contract gets rescinded, and then you're looking at, I think Rabiot was the player he wanted in midfield. That went by the wayside as well. So then, and rightly or wrongly, he chased Mount, which I think was the wrong decision for me when we clearly needed a number 9. So then you're looking at, he's got one player out of 4 that he wanted. So then he's obviously moved around and moved the pieces around, gone and got a Nana. And then it was like, we'll probably get on to Jadon. But I think, a lot of people are putting Jadon playing at false 9 as this was a new becoming, this was a new beginning for Jadon, and why he's not played because of that. When for me, it was a cry for help from the manager. Look what I'm having to do in pre-season. I don't have a number 9 in pre-season. How am I meant to prepare for this season, which is going to be even more important than the last? Because now there's expectation on me. I've got you to the Champions League. I've won a trophy. I need to close the gap on the 2 teams above us. And the chasing pack are improving even more. So he's screaming for a number 9. He doesn't get it until the very last game, pretty much of pre-season, and then he can't play as well. I just think the manager really has both hands and legs tied, and he really is struggling. And I think with Mainoo, I think you often get those young players that look like they really do shine in pre-season. And for me, for young players, I like to protect them quite a bit. And I feel with Mainoo, a lot of expectations getting put on him. He looked good, but let's not forget, if he'd have stayed fit and dropped a stinker against Wolves and it started, the daggers start to come out. Then, he's not good enough. Why have we not got Amrabat? Why have we not bought this player? So it's you kind of, for me, I kind of need to sit on the fence with it. Yes, he looked good in pre-season, but that's not proper competitive football. So I do believe, and you pretty much summed it up what I was going to say. I do believe Amrabat would have come in anyway, because I think we needed 2 or 3 midfielders anyway. And I think he was fully expecting 2 or maybe even 3 of Donny, McTominay and Fred to go. We've got rid of one of them. He clearly wanted McTominay to go, and they've rejected a bid for him, which for me was probably about right. for where he is at the minute, and 30 million for Scott McTominay, we probably don't get that ever again. So I think Amrabat definitely would have come in anyway, and maybe in an ideal world, obviously we couldn't do it. Maybe Gravenberch as well, and if McTominay, Donny, and Fred go, it's an Amrabat and Gravenberch situation, which improves us tenfold. But overall, I really do think it's a 3 out of 10 window, mate. It's been absolutely dreadful for me.
Yeah, I agree on that sense. I gave it a 6 out of 10, the window rating, because I think that the incomings that we brought in were very exciting. I think Onana makes us a complete different team from playing out from the back. I think Højlund's a very exciting prospect. Mason Mount, I like the sign, I just don't understand it. And Amrabat, we've not seen him play for us yet. I mean, we saw him when he played for Morocco in the World Cup. I've caught a few games for him playing for Fiorentina, but I'm not going to say that I watched him religiously because that would be a lie. But again, I think that Erik ten Hag's having to scout these players by himself, which is why this is the ongoing issue. Now, we all know that what the issue is. It's the Glazers, from top to bottom. It's an absolute wasteland. It's awful. And like I said, Erik ten Hag is tied with both arms and legs. He's literally doing an impossible job. And I've already seen people in the comments. Thank you, everyone, for the comments, by the way. Keep putting them in of all your opinions on Man United. But again, I saw some people say that United completely overachieved last season. That's honestly the God's honest truth. And I work in hospitality, and I meet a lot of United fans. And someone came into me and noticed me from my channel. So if you're ever watching, thank you for just pointing me out. But he turned around and said that, "What are your thoughts on Erik ten Hag?" And I turned around and I said, "Well, I think he's doing great. I think he had a great first season, won us a trophy, got us third place back in the Champions League. I think that he's done really well." And he turned around and said this to me. This is the God's honest truth. He said, "I'm not convinced by him." And I looked at him like, "You're the first United fan I've ever heard say this." And he was like, he went, because Chelsea, Spurs, and Liverpool were so poor, he thinks ten Hag got a lucky break, and a lot of fans have got overexcited by it. And I was like, I can see where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, you've still got to win them games. You've still got to do that. So it's not like he got a lucky break. You could say the same, like, now, did Newcastle get top 4 because Liverpool, Spurs, and Chelsea were playing poorly? You could argue it, or you could say that Newcastle saw the opportunity, took it, that's saying everyone else around us that's challenging us for top 4 is failing, so let's capitalise on it and let's get Champions League football. I don't think Newcastle are going to get out of the group stage, but that's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, obviously we're all entitled to our own opinion. But again, when it comes to the incomings, I am happy with them. It's just the outgoings that haven't gone. I mean, I liked Fred. I think that Fred was a very decent player for us. I think he could have been a very decent utility and squad player for us this season. I would have much rather McTominay, Donny, and other players go before Fred would. Fred was one player that won't be here in the next 3-4 years, but I would have liked to keep on to him because, as we know, Fred is our little workhorse. He does try his hardest, whether he's good or not. He has got a bit of a trampoline touch. I have had to check his Brazilian passport a few times, and he is very questionable. But Fred was one of them players who was very inconsistent, but on his day, he was probably one of the most standout players in our midfield. And especially with Casemiro, you saw him gain a lot more confidence. So with me, with McTominay and Maguire, we had that moment where West Ham were apparently offering us 70, 80 million for both players. And I was like, why aren't we taking that? But apparently it was Maguire's issue that he wanted to stay and fight for his place, which I kind of wanted to go into. I made a video today talking about Maguire and his golden opportunity with Varane, Lindelof possibly being injured. So Maguire all throughout pre-season have talked about why he wants to stay and fight for his place. He's talked about him doing extra work in training. He wants to stay at Manchester United and fight for his place. So I just want to ask you that: do you think Maguire has an opportunity to stay at Man United? Because for me, the answer is no. But if he can prove us wrong, I'm all for it. If Maguire turns out and becomes the best English centre back in the world, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But for me, the reality is saying it's not going to happen. But this is Maguire's opportunity, in my opinion. If Varane and Lindelof are out for some time, do you think Maguire could take this opportunity, or do you think someone like Johnny Evans will play, or Casemiro will be played at centre back?
I think you have to play players in the best positions, and I think as much as I agree with you, I don't. The only issue you have to worry about is obviously Varane. Clearly, as much as I love him, is very injury prone, and that's proved to be the case. Unfortunately, he's got he's got sort of Kinder Bueno legs, and they just snap off. They're not. Unfortunately for him, and I think. Listen, I said to you before. I think I commented on the video. I said, listen, I could never ever said what you said about making an apology video for Maguire, because it'd be as long as Oppenheimer. Honestly, it would be that long, because
Good film, very good film.
yeah, yeah. The apology wouldn't be so good. No Oscars for me, I'm telling you. But well, it would be, because I'd be acting. I'd be pretending like I care to him. But it's. I've never rated it. I never wanted him at Old Trafford. I've never.
To be fair, just to interrupt you there, I could see your video being like the Conor McGregor one. I have to apologise to absolutely fucking nobody. That's exactly,
that's exactly how it will be. I listen. Unfortunately for us, he's a Manchester United player still. He's clearly not got. To him, he thinks he's got the mentality to be a Manchester United player, when really we know he's not got the mentality to go and be a player. He wants to have that status as a Manchester United player. He wants to have that wage. You believe the rumours at the back end of the window was that he didn't want a transfer, or he believed he could play for a better club than West Ham. Yeah, at the end of the window, when he clearly knew he was going to be fourth, fifth choice when everyone was fit, that it was likely, I'll take a loan for a year, because he knows West Ham will pay 100 grand, but we will supplement the rest of his wages, so he's still getting his 190 grand, 200 grand what he's on. So that tells you everything you need to know about the man. And even if it is the people that are looking after him, you could say, very loosely looking after him, that are feeding this into the media, he's clearly got an ego. He's clearly been fed lines from other people, and you could even put Southgate into this a little bit. I think he's fed him a little bit, in that, giving him this belief that he's the best centre back in England. They've started, he said it himself. I've got nothing to prove. When you're a Manchester United player, you've got something to prove every time you step onto the pitch, my friend, and that's a very important thing to remember. I'm lucky enough to have seen the best teams play for Manchester United, and none of them would have had that attitude ever. So for me, he's only going to get a chance when the team is decimated, and at the moment it looks like it could be going that way. But I think the Sweden manager has come out and said Lindelof is okay. Martinez has gone off to Argentinian international duty. Hopefully he comes out of that okay. And then, sadly, I think he is now third choice. I think from what I saw of Evans, he looked like a young player coming into a massive game. He looked way off the pace. And I genuinely think, and this, again, it harks back to, like you said, the Glazers and where we are as a football club. The fact we made that signing is not only embarrassing, but it's a statement of where we are as a football club. I genuinely think Johnny Evans, as good as he was as a player, and as much as I loved him for playing for the club, and he still has that sort of cult hero status, I think he'd struggle in a lot of championship sides at the moment. I think he looks so far off the pace. He didn't play many games last season. I think 13 last season, 18 before that. And I think a lot of that was due to injury. So, you're asking a player that's not played at the highest level consistently for 2 seasons to come into a game like that he did. And then will he need to play more games? And if it's him and Maguire, like on Saeed's channel, I joked all season saying Arsenal were the London Leicester. It's come back to bite me, because clearly we're the London Leicester if we're playing, or the Manchester Leicester, if we're playing their centre back pairing from 4 or 5 years ago. Like,
yeah,
it's an absolute joke. For me, Maguire should have gone for his own career and for the betterment of Manchester United. I don't think he's a presence that I like around the club, but I just think think he will get games, and I think he will think that means he can stay.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to get rid of him now, I think he's got 2 years left on his contract, I believe, maybe with an option of the third. I think we just have to hope that the Glazers go, and then real people come in to take over the club, and they'll just get rid of him. But
yeah,
he will get chances this season, unfortunately.
Yeah. And just to end my bit on Evans as well, is that Evans wasn't good enough for us 8 years ago. So why is he back here now? I understand that these clubs, have like experienced players in the squad. I mean, you look at Scott Carson for Man City, a player who's been around and is probably good for the youth players. But you don't see Scott Carson playing for Man City, do you? Like it doesn't. It just
No.
doesn't happen. So this is where my frustration is. And Manchester United are bringing on Johnny Evans as an emergency player because we've got no squad, and that's the frustrating thing. But we've just got some breaking news now, which brings us on to a great part of the video, and it is about Jadon Sancho. Now, apparently Bayern Munich have now entered the race for Jadon Sancho in January. Now, Jadon Sancho, if no one knows, we've had a bit of an ongoing issue with Jadon Sancho over the last week. Now, Jadon Sancho has been a bench player, you could say, for Man United since the start of the season. He's come on 30-minute cameos. And for me, I think he's just put in average performances. He hasn't really stood out to me. Maybe in the Nottingham Forest game, he kind of had a 7 out of 10, but still nothing came from it. But especially in the Spurs game, the Wolves game, he didn't stand out at all. He didn't even play in the Arsenal game due to a training or disciplinary situation that Erik ten Hag addressed in his post-match press conference. And then within 30 minutes of that happening, Jadon Sancho made a public statement on social media, pretty much calling Erik ten Hag a liar. Now, I'm going to ask you, what was your first reaction when you saw that statement for Jadon Sancho?
I was absolutely. I'll be honest. I'm absolutely fuming. I didn't hear anything. I watched the game and I was kind of busy with life and my Sunday evening with my daughter and stuff like that. And then obviously I had a show at 9 o'clock with Saeed and Andy Tate and stuff. And then I just blew. I kind of blew up and lost my top. Wanted him out of the club, get him to Turkey. That window's still open. You cannot do this for Manchester United. I've just put a video out on my channel today, just talking about the situation and having a bit more clarity and thinking a bit more rather than the emotional off the bat kind of feeling that I had about it. And I still agree that and think what he did was absolutely bang out of order. And people talking about, well, he's lied on his name and this and that, and I would do it if it was my boss. But yeah, but you work at Co-op. Like, no one cares if your manager says you don't stack shelves well. No, if you took to Instagram and tweet and put that on a statement about Ian, your manager doesn't like the way you stack shelves, who's going to like it? Your mum and your auntie. No one cares. But when you're a footballer, there's a way of doing things and a way of being professional. And if the manager
the thing is, though, as well, is that if Jadon Sancho kept quiet, I mean, you look at the Antony situation now, if he kept himself quiet, he would have been the starting right winger after international break.
Maybe, but then again, you don't really know what's happening with Antony. So, but one thing you don't do after a terrible loss is add fuel to the fire. And, you fight fire with water, not fire with fire. And, no one comes out of the situation looking good, especially the club as well. So, it's just further derailing our season and adding more stuff we didn't need in an international break when really we just wanted to kind of forget about the Arsenal game, move on and get back for Brighton. Now for 2 weeks, this is all we're going to hear and think pieces. And I know talk is cheap. I've just done a video on it, but I just feel Jadon, like, listen, I've been Jadon's biggest supporter. I've backed him on every single channel I've been on, every single space. He's one player I was so excited to get to Manchester United, and it's not worked out the first 2 seasons. And, Erik ten Hag, he's talking about being a scapegoat. Erik ten Hag couldn't have done more for Jadon Sancho if he tried, giving him 2-3 months off. He's played him in several different positions. He clearly rates the kid enough to think, I will find a place for you in this team. But when you're in there, you actually have to do it. Like, the manager can only do so much. You then have to repay the faith. And I don't think, Sancho's never dropped a man of the match performance for me in a Manchester United shirt, and that's worrying in two and a bit years. He's never even put two 8 out of 10s together. Do you know what I mean? 7s, I don't think. And that's the worrying thing. And for me, it looks like the fight isn't there. He doesn't look like he is comfortable or confident enough in and he wasn't under Solskjaer as well. So then you start to look at, well, why? And the manager wouldn't say something like, for me, I don't think the manager would say something like that unless there was truth to it. And listen, now I saw something on The Athletic that now saying we need to be careful with Sancho because look what happened with Dele Alli. And that's very dangerous for you to start going down that route, because all Ten Hag has done is mention a football reason that he
Yeah,
wasn't training hard or he wasn't training to the level that I expect. And it's okay for Jadon Sancho to come out and say, "Well, I do train hard." You're not the manager. You don't know what if you're not hitting the levels the manager wants. It doesn't matter how hard you think you're going. If the manager's not backing you on that and not playing you, clearly something is not right. And I think the manager can only say it so many times to you, and apparently they've had words. Maybe it was a shock tactic to Sancho, and he failed the test. Rather than take it on the chin, get back in training the next day, and prove to the manager that he's wrong to say what he said and wrong not to play. Yeah, he's kind of thrown his toys out the pram. And like you say, he's probably hindered his chances if something happens with this Antony situation for him to move on and become that first choice right winger.
yeah. The
I,
thing
I,
is that
sorry,
the
mate.
thing
No,
is,
no, go
is
ahead,
that yeah, no, because the thing I wanted to say was that I really want to give Palestra a chance, and I've said for ages now that I don't know why Palestra hasn't been given an opportunity, because the guy has hardly played for Man United since he's joined,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy still gets picked for Uruguay every single international
Yeah.
break. And every time Palestra comes on the pitch, whether it's a cameo off the bench, I don't think he puts a foot wrong in it. You see him; he's very direct. He runs at defenders. He tries and creates chances. I think he's very good. And the fact we only bought him for 10 million euros, that's the type of a signing Brighton would have made. And he would have been
Mm-hmm.
around probably about a £60 million player by now, because they would have put
Yeah.
faith in him. But what happened? Man United, after signing Palestra, a week later decided to sign Amad Diallo for 35 million euros. Then in the summer, we decided to sign Jadon Sancho for around 70 million euros or 80 million euros, whatever it was. And then the season after, we go and sign Antony for 90 million euros.
Mm-hmm.
When you add it all together, that's nearly 200 million euros in right wingers, and none of them have worked out for us so far.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Palestra hasn't been given an opportunity, whether you like him or not. I believe this kid deserves a chance, and the low centre of gravity, the way he plays his football, the way he's very direct, I think he's a player that would suit a Man City system like that. He would be absolutely brilliant for him. But that's just my opinion on Palestra. I really like him, and I think that we've got what's the word? It's kind of like one man's junk is another man's treasure. Like, I feel like that if we was to sell Palestra, someone would make him a gem, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say about, because I think he's got the correct mentality. If you've heard about his backstory about how he had to travel hours and hours to training when he was younger because of his family in poverty, it's a beautiful story, and I just want him to do well for us, because he's a player that we bought for a low price, who probably his market value is lower than what it was. I just find it frustrating, that fact that we've spent so much on players, especially in the right winging position, and none of them have worked out. And Eric Ten Hag, I just hope that Palestra does get a chance. I mean, if Antony does get penalised and does get punished, it's kind of awkward, because recently we've had the Greenwood situation. Now, for me, I find it a very sensitive topic to talk about, but and as some of the audience do as well. But with what happened with Greenwood, do you kind of think that with the Antony situation that should be dealt with the same way, or do you think that should be dealt a bit differently because it was in Brazil and not England? Because obviously with the victim and the allegations that she said about Antony, it was in Brazil, but because the Greenwood situation was in England, do you think that that's what the difference is?
No, I think, well, the bare facts are he's not been charged or anything. So that in that way, it's not the same as Greenwood. Obviously, the evidence that we've seen, apparently there is some photos that Anthony's accuser has put on social media. I've not seen anything like that, but
I've not.
The Greenwood one was everywhere, and he was charged, and that's literally why he was suspended. And Antony at the moment, it's just an investigation going on. I know Greater Manchester Police are also investigating it over here as well, but we can't say anything. And I think this whole jumping on, he needs to be suspended. It needs to go the same way as Greenwood. The two very different situations. I feel in that, one was charged almost immediately. Antony isn't, and I think with Antony, we just have to wait and see on it. And if he's not charged, then there's precedent in the Premier League of two players. One plays for Arsenal, one plays for Tottenham. They were both investigated for similar crimes and situations, and they've both played, and nothing's been said pretty much. And I think we could say because it's Manchester United, it's a little bit different, and it's always in the media, and it's always highlighted, and it's always in the spotlight, which is sometimes true. And I just feel with the Antony situation, it's best not to jump on anything until all the facts are clear in anything. And if he does get charged and it looks like it'll be taken to court, then it 100% has to go the same way as Greenwood for me. I think he does have to be taken out of the team to protect Manchester United as much as himself, and obviously the victim of the crime. But until then, he should play because, like I say, he's not being charged of anything. With Palestra, I'd like to just jump on the back of what you were saying. I absolutely love him, and I've seen him every time he's played for Manchester United. And it might sound a bit wild in this, but from what I've seen of him, he's our best winger. And I'll say this because he's direct, and he's like you say, low center of gravity. He's technically sound, and his biggest attribute, right? It's going to sound weird that it's not passing, it's not shooting. His biggest attribute to this Manchester United team is he's not greedy. He's not a greedy winger. All of our wingers are greedy. Jadon Sancho, it's for me, he's not greedy, but he's not a typical winger.
Selfish.
Yeah. Rashford is unbelievably selfish and greedy. Antony is greedy and selfish. Garnacho is greedy and selfish. Palestri wants to assist. Palestri wants to pass the ball to the people that are going to put the ball in the net. The other wingers want to put the ball in the net and aren't too fussed about assisting. So he's a winger. He is our best winger in that he wants to play, get to the byline, put a cross in the box for the people in the box and the attackers to score. And that's why I feel he's our best winger. And you have to look at it, and it's a similar situation. He's a similar situation to Sancho in it may not be the training, but the manager clearly doesn't fancy him enough to give him a chance. And it's the same situation for Antony that it is for same situation for Palestra that it is for Sancho, in that if Rashford can drop stinkers at 9 and not play too well at the 10, he scored 1 goal. Antony can apparently not play well and get penalties from everyone, and other players aren't playing well, and Sancho can't get in the team, and Palestri can't get in the team. At the end of the day, the manager clearly doesn't want you in the team. There's something stopping him from putting you ahead. And you can talk about his favourites. You can talk about it being he does trust these players more than anyone else. But I think we've seen with Ten Hag, and he did it with Rashford against Wolves last season, if you're not doing it, and he turned up to that meeting late, Garnacho started that game against Wolves, and then obviously at halftime he came on and scored. But we saw last season that Ten Hag was making examples out of people not doing the right things. Garnacho had an attitude. He wasn't starting, or he was away from the first team, came back in and proved his worth. And I think Iqbal was similar last season. I think he started in pre-season really, really well and then fell by the wayside. And I believe it wasn't Ten Hag realised he wasn't at the level he wanted. And that's why Mainu came in and kind of overtook him in the first team squad. There's clearly something stopping Palestri's progression to the first team at this moment in time. Whether or not the path becomes clear with Antony and Jadon is yet to be seen. But I'm with you, mate. I think he absolutely deserves at least a start in this Manchester United team to see where he's at level-wise. And like you say, Uruguay are a very serious national team. They don't mess about. And for him to be starting in the World Cup, not even just the friendlies, in the World Cup, he was starting for him, given the number 8 shirt. Clearly he's rated, and I don't understand why we don't rate him the same.
Yeah, because I remember as well when Cavani was here, he turned around and talked about what a brilliant player Palestri is and the fact that he deserves more game time. I remember him talking about that. We've just got a comment here bouncing off the Ropes podcast. A guy called Munze, who's quite regular in the comments,
Munze, yeah.
saying that I've seen this guy in another pod, talks a lot of sense, so just a compliment to you.
Well, thanks, yeah. Well, he might, yeah. I appreciate that, Munze. Not a lot of people say it, but it's nice when someone does.
Yeah, and he also says that addresses the fact that I remember the kit that I'm wearing where it says the blue and white tick. He had Cole 17 on mine. Well, I've got Kanchelskis on mine. A very underrated player, very fast player back in the day. But it's a great story behind the shirt. But let's overread a few of the comments actually, because I've not actually read any out this evening. And also, someone says that Højlund looks very good, doesn't he? Were you impressed by Højlund from that brief cameo?
Yeah, mate. I mean, it was like I'd been blind and someone had used the magic wand to make me see again. I couldn't believe what I was watching, and this is very sad for Anthony Martial, because he's a shell of the player he was. He's clearly not physically able to perform at a level that we require him to, and his touch is gone. He's a little bit of link up play. He can't shoot anymore. He can't run. He doesn't trust himself to sprint. I really do feel like he's done at the top level. And I was saying against was it Tottenham game that it was the Forest game that he started. It was nice for us to have a proper number 9 that could just stand up there and even though it was not great performance from him, really, it's a lot better than what Marcus Rashford does up there.
Yeah.
And for Højlund to come in straight away and absolutely terrify Gabriel, like Gabriel was terrified of him, and he knew he was in a battle. He knew that physically Højlund was up there. You saw it when he, almost stone cold stunned him in the box when we should have got a penalty. Do you know what I mean? He was terrified of him, and that is brilliant. That as small as a cameo and the sample size is, it's heartening to see we actually might have a proper physical class number 9 that could cause a lot of defenders. If he's doing it against Arsenal, he can do it against most teams in this league, and that was good to see. I'm excited to see more of him, and hopefully, I think he should be starting against Brighton for sure.
Definitely. And with Højlund, I mean, I've been a massive fan of him. I remember I was on the phone to my girlfriend, this was months ago, and I was watching the Denmark and Finland game, and I was on the phone to my girlfriend on FaceTime as teenagers do nowadays, and she was like, "What are you watching the Denmark game for?" And I was like, "Right, hear me out. There's this guy on my Football Manager called Højlund, and I've scouted him on my Football Manager, and I really like the look of him, and I want to see what he's like in real life." And there was a brief moment in that game where Denmark conceded a corner, and then Højlund chested it, and then within 4 seconds of being in their penalty box, he was at the halfway line, and I was like, "What the fuck?" So ever since then, I checked him out at Atalanta. So and I've been obsessed with him ever since. So when he came on against Arsenal, my granddad and my stepdad, they were like, "Oh, let's see what this kid's all about. They've been hyping up Dan." And I was like, "I'm telling yous now, yous will be stunned by him, and you'll be saying what a great player he is by half time." And you're like, "Well, unless he scores, I'm not going to say that." There was a moment in the game, if you remember, when Rashford was running on the touchline, and Højlund ran just straight through the middle and just sprinted, and my granddad was like, "What the fuck is going? Who is he?" And I was like, "That's what he does." You know what I'm saying? And you people, all the rival fans and the media knocking off saying he's a B-Tech Haaland, he's Haaland off Wish. Well, guess what? Sometimes you get a great budget, sometimes you get a great knockoff, and that is what Højlund is. By the end of this season, Haaland is going to be the B-Tech Højlund, and I'm looking at it and saying that with a fact.
I back that.
I love him so much. I have so much passion towards him because, again, it was like the Casemiro signing. We've been starved of a number 6 for so long. This is where we gained so much love towards Casemiro straight away. And it's exactly the same response with Højlund, because we've actually got a passionate. I mean, you saw that moment when the ball went out and Casemiro grabbed his shirt. And it was brilliant to see. And Højlund, he's talked about how he'll die for the badge and stuff. I've not heard one new signing in the last 5-6 years actually said, "I will die for this badge." Probably the last one was Ander Herrera, a player who actually wanted to be here. You don't even hear the youth players say it, and it does my head in. And this is where a mentality issue comes in Man United. But anyway, sorry everyone for being passionate. It just comes out.
Mate, never apologise for being passionate about your team. Absolutely never apologise for that. But you're right. Just quickly on Højlund. So I didn't really know much about him until sort of December, January, and I was on another podcast, Friday Night Counter Attack. Big up to Hams. and he's very knowledgeable on sort of European football, and we did a sort of Premier League Serie A. I think it's like a Serie A five-a-side thing, and we was talking about certain players, and he picked Hoyland, and he was talking to me about Hoyland a little bit, and he was schooling me on him, and then from there, I really started to check him out, and mate, I wanted him. As soon as we started getting linked, I was like, we need him here, because this isn't a signing Manchester United have been making for the last couple of years. We don't get these young strikers that are then touted as the next big thing. We're getting Falcao's, and we're getting Di Maria's, and we're getting Weghorst, and Cavani, players that are coming to the end of the career. We're not getting these hungry young players. And I watched an interview he did with, I don't know if it was shown before the game on Sunday, because I didn't manage to watch any of the pre-match stuff. And it was just talking. It's just like an 8-minute interview, and he's just talking about how he loved Manchester United as a kid, and his dad made him watch Ronaldo, and he's really the thing he loves about Ronaldo and why he's his favorite player, and he thinks he's the best player of all time, is because not only does he have the talent, but he works damn hard to make sure the talent is seen and accounted for. And I think he's very driven, and he knew. And he's the interviewer was asking him, said, Did you think that you'd get here? Like, I know it's like, you was at Copenhagen and Sturm Graz, and then Atalanta. It's been, 2 years. You've gone from that to Manchester United. Did you think you'd get here? And he was not in a cocky way, but he's kind of saying, I believe in myself, and I back my talent, and I back my work ethic, and my, the people around me to get me where I need to be. And, listen, regardless of the price, I think he's shown already, like I say, in a small career, that this kid could be the next big thing in terms of a forward. And I'm just like you, mate. I'm buzzing that he plays for Manchester United for sure.
Me too, mate. And again, I know the original plan was to get an out-and-out natural striker ready, and now, which was a Harry Kane or a Victor Osimhen, and Højlund was supposed to come in as that backup. But you know what? With a manager like Erik ten Hag, you've seen what he did with Rashford, you've seen what he's done with Garnacho. I can guarantee you, by the end of the season, Højlund will have... I've said that Højlund will get 20 goals in all competitions this season, which I think will be an amazing breakthrough season for him. Yeah. And that's what I believe. And I think he has the talent to do it. I just think it's down to the people around him, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, whoever's playing on the right wing, to provide him the goals. Because we've said for so many times, I've said it on this channel since day one, there's a graveyard shift problem. Even when Weghorst was here, yes, he couldn't pass wind or anything. Like, he couldn't like hit water out of a boat, but he still got no service, and we couldn't actually like see it. And again, I just hope that these players actually help him out. I mean, you saw Casemiro. Casemiro's all for him. He made a beautiful ball to him, and that's what caused Gabriel to take down Højlund. So I think that whilst he's in international break, I am quite a bit annoyed that he has gone on international break, because I wanted him to stay for the 2 weeks and actually work with the players at United and get more like surrounded and knowledge with Erik ten Hag and what he wants from him. But again, you're not going to turn down your international teams every now and again. Not many players do it.
Not as a young player.
As a young player, you're going to take that opportunity, representing your country. You're going to take it with open arms.
Absolutely.
But again, we've kind of dragged on long enough, and I want to talk quickly about the games. Now, just quick firing. Just say it as you please with one word. What did you think of the Wolves game?
Boring.
The Spurs game.
Catastrophic.
And Nottingham Forest game.
Lucky.
And the Arsenal game.
Unlucky.
There we go. Well, you know what? All in words, I have to describe. I actually have to agree with you, because again, Wolves game, we just got very lucky, and it wasn't the best start. Spurs game, we showed promise. We had a few chances, but again, second half, Spurs just came out and knew where to hit us. Again, Nottingham Forest game, very lucky. We went 2-0 down, which was our own mistakes. Yeah. And we did well to fight back, which was, I mean, you expect a team like United, if you go 2-0 down within the first 5 minutes, I don't think, if it happened to City, Liverpool or Arsenal, I can guarantee you all of them come back and win it 3-2 as well, which is just shows you that they're not, like, going 2-0 up in the first 5 minutes is never like a great thing. Like you had I went to that game and all the Nottingham Forest fans were cheering and stuff. I remember I saw you on your Instagram. You were stayed behind for the Glazers out protest. Brilliant work, by the way. I was in the hospitality suite, so I couldn't actually have my Glazers out protest. I had it in my bag, and they told me to hand it in at reception. So I was gutted by that. But no, with that, it was a very decent game. And I was happy we fought back because it did show a bit of character. And Bruno Fernandes, I'd say that's probably his best game, you could say, in the year, not just since the start of the season, probably the entirety of 2023. I don't think he had a very good end to the season, but that's just my opinion. And then obviously the Arsenal game, unlucky. I don't think it was offside. You probably don't think it was offside. But again, Piers Morgan chatting on TalkSport, the absolute sweaty walrus, and just talking about the fact that, about Arsenal, the best team in the world. Declan Rice is the best signing in the world. Mate, shut up. But anyway, what are you going to say?
Why did they use a different angle? The Sky Sports showed an angle where he clearly wasn't offside, but then VAR used one further back, and at an angle that was diagonal made him look offside. Listen, I said unlucky, but because my true thoughts, I couldn't really think of a one-word answer for what I really think about that Arsenal game. This team don't learn. This team have very small football IQ and they don't learn lessons. What happened on Sunday is what happened in January. And the fact I knew we was going to lose as soon as that goal was chalked off, Garnacho's goal. As soon as that goal was chalked off, I turned to my girlfriend and said, United will lose now. Because I knew Arsenal would feed off that. And we won't get back into the game.
Instead of United using that motivation and the what's the word and the what's it called now? I've lost my brain's gone. But it's the momentum. That's it. The momentum. Instead of United using the momentum and where we've just gone 2-1 up, or it's been dealt with offside. Lads, come on, let's get the second. Now we can punish them. And then what happened? We go 2-1 now.
Arsenal used it. Arsenal swung it in their favour, and
exactly.
Listen, you can talk about that. You can talk about
I talked about in my preview as well that I say we've got to be careful of Arsenal on set pieces, especially corners, because they overload the back post. Yeah. And if I know that, and I'm not training with United every single day, surely Eric Ten Hag knows that, and the coaches know that, and they're drilling that into the players. But what happened? You've got Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, and Evans completely unmarking anyone. You've got Johnny Evans and whoever it was, Gabriel, literally just like doing ring of roses with each other, and then you've got Maguire just looking at the moon in the sky, like just picking his nose.
And this is it. And then you look at the third. We're chasing the game still, and I think it led to the third goal. We've got a free kick, and instead of pumping it into the box, Bruno sprays it out to the right to Casemiro. That's near almost at halfway. I was just like, what are you actually doing? And then I'm actually done with him now, and maybe I'll calm down. But Rashford, for me, I think I'm going to be on his neck this season because I cannot watch him jump out of another challenge and shit himself. He led to the third goal. Jumping out of that challenge, he's absolutely scared of taking a hit or winning a foul. And we saw it all in the FA Cup final. Several times I was there, I was watching it. He shit himself every time he doesn't jump for the ball. He doesn't challenge for the ball. And for whatever reason, maybe he thinks the defender's going to not get it and he can then run on, and that's not your job as a number 9. And I think that's why he can't play there. And I cannot watch him do that again for Manchester United. I'm absolutely fed up of it. And I think it needs calling out, and he needs to look at himself and do better, because this team stinks when stuff goes against them. And like I say, as soon as that Garnacho goal was disallowed, I knew there was only one winner in the game, and I knew it was Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. Rashford, again, I don't think he's a natural number 9. I've said it from day one. I think that the left wing is his best and only position that he actually can play in. The right wing, he just doesn't play well in there. The straight centre forward, he doesn't have that poacher's instinct where he can hold off defenders or the fact that he can link up with the plate. He doesn't do that. He needs the ball to be passed in front of him by a good 5-10 yards and he runs onto it and goes one-on-one with the keeper and he buries it. That's the way Rashford likes, and he likes to drift in from the left-hand side and makes them more central type runs and get him behind the defensive line. That's the way Rashford likes to do it. And people are cutting out them passes that we're making out to him, and that's why he's been so ineffective. And he needs, and we're on Antony's back about he needs to start using his right foot more, and he start using, he needs to start being more creative. We need to be on Rashford's back as well, because that guy proved last season that he can get 30 goals in all competitions and 11 assists. Now, he's not been nominated for the Ballon d'Or this season, which I think is right. I don't think he was good enough. I don't think I look at him and be like, you're one of the top 30 players in the world. I think it was a very good, brief season. But if you remember, for the first 2 months of the season, I think he got 2 goals. And then it was that moment from probably around like October time to around February time, he was on fire and he was scoring goals for fun. But then towards the end of the season, he dropped off again. And that's where the disappointing thing happened. And in that final of the FA Cup, he did my head in. He just wasn't it. He just wasn't there. And again, maybe the moment got to him. I'm not too sure. But I remember ranting on about that FA Cup final, and I was saying that's when City won the Champions League, because they only had Inter Milan. They only had Inter Milan. It was United who, it was literally like, it was our treble to lose, and it literally was. We handed City that treble. Like, it was like, where's the keys? Let's open the cabinet. You take our treble, or you take the name. And that's pretty much the last thing we could have actually held on to City. It was, oh, you haven't won a Champions League and all that jazz. But what did they do? The first season they win the Champions League, they win the bastard treble. And that was like the most annoying thing about it. So for me, that was when it was dead frustrating for me. But I just want to go on a quick segment now. And in the first 4 games of the season, who would you say? Because Bruno Fernandes was nominated Player of the Month. For me, I don't know how, because I thought he was poor in our first 2 games. But who do you think's been our best performer and most consistent performer over the last 4 games? For me, it's Wan-Bissaka, but you might have a different opinion to me.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you there, Wan-Bissaka. I think, the turnaround has been absolutely fantastic, because he was dead in the water last season. I think Ten Hag was happy for him to go. Just again, the club wouldn't agree a deal that was befitting of what they thought he was worth, and that's why he stayed. And then from January, he absolutely turned it around. I think it coincided with Dalot's bad form after the World Cup and stuff like that. But for me, I think he's our best right back. I prefer him over Dalot, for sure. You're probably right. I think Varane has been fantastic up until the injury. I think he's been really good. Martinez is worrying me at the moment, mate. It's sad, but there's not much to choose from, is there? And Onana has looked decent, but I think people are expecting him to come in and transform United into prime Barcelona, Pep's Barcelona or something. It's just not going to work like that, is it? And Casemiro's looked a bit dodgy. I agree. Bruno probably gets it because of his performance against Nottingham Forest alone. That's probably why he's got that. But yeah, you probably spot on, mate. I think Wan-Bissaka for me, because he's played every game, and you invariably he looked a bit shaky against Martinelli. I think Martinelli was troubling him a little bit on Sunday, but other than that, he's been steady for us.
I disagree, but I think that's what Wan-Bissaka did really well against Martinelli, was that he stopped Martinelli's strengths. He made Martinelli worry as well. And I mean, you even think of it, that goal that they scored did come from Martinelli. He did set up that goal. Yeah. And that was only because it was Lindelof marking him. And that's only the way he got the space. It wasn't even Wan-Bissaka marking him. I don't know where Wan-Bissaka was, but again, I remember it was Lindelof on the right back position, and that was where Martinelli hit it into, I think it was Declan Rice or someone, and then it passed to another player, then it went to Ødegaard, and then boom, Ødegaard hits it first time. Now, Ricky off the United stand, he turned around and made a little Instagram video talking about how it wasn't Eriksen's fault on that first goal against Arsenal. Now, Ricky, I love him to bits. I've had him on the channel before. Great guy. But again, I have the most amount of respect for him. But some of his opinions are very controversial. I don't understand how he says Lindelof and Johnny Evans are our best centre back pairing. I don't understand it, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's all I have to say on it. Yeah, Ricky, if you're watching this, you're an absolute legend and you're absolutely class. But when it comes to it, I just feel like that everyone has their own opinion, and that's what the beauty of football is. That's what we do on our channels. We all share our opinions. This is what the great, by people in the comments, they share their opinions as well, and we answer their questions and stuff. So yeah, I just really appreciate everyone on the support on this journey. But that's been the podcast for tonight. But last question, just to everyone, and I'll ask you, pal, is do you think United get top 4 still? Do you think, well, we've had a shaky start to the season, do you think we can still challenge for top 4 this season?
Well, luckily it's top 5, but it's whether I think we'll get top 5. But
it's top 5 now, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I know what you mean, mate. You know, we need to be looking, like I said earlier on, we need to be looking at closing the gap on the 2 teams above us, Arsenal and City. Sorry. Will that happen? I don't know. It's worrying where we are, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. You know, it's not exactly smooth sailing, and the sail hanging over the club's head isn't helping, I don't think. And as much as the players can say we don't focus on that, of course you're going to talk about it. Of course you're going to know about it and think about it, and you don't know where the club's going, and the manager doesn't know where the club's going, and that's worrying. And in what is an important season, I think the Champions League group is a lot harder than what we probably would have wanted. I think, you know, it's not easy to go to Galatasaray. I think Copenhagen might cause us some problems as well away. They're the type of places we don't do well. I worry because the league is getting a lot stronger, and I just think everyone is improving, and we don't seem to be, and that's the worry. But
yeah,
ask me again in January, and I'll see where we are. I think after 4 games, it's so hard, and they've not been the easiest of games. I think the 2 away games have been quite difficult, and we've lost them both. The home forms kept quite consistent. We'll see a big test against Brighton at home, and you know, the last team we lost to at home as well. So we really do need to see where we actually are, and can we come back from this international break and start to hit the ground running. That's what we need. But I think after 4 games, it's so hard, because if you look at it, we're actually in the same position we was last season after 4 games, 1-2, lost 2. So, you know, in that instance, we're actually no worse off. It's just every team seems to be getting a lot better. So, yeah, it's a little bit early for me, I think, but definitely after January, close to Christmas, I think we can start to map out where we might finish this season.
Yeah, I completely agree, pal. I'm going to still have a bit of optimism. I am going to say that United do get top 4. I mean, Simon Davis here said, hang on a second, is it top 5 now? Please educate me, gentlemen. So I believe now that after this season, the Champions League format is changing, where they're now, I think it said, how many teams is it? Is it now? It's something like it's now being, they're adding like 20 teams throughout Europe now, so it's going to be a complete different revamp of the way the Champions League is run. So now other teams in different leagues are now going to have more appointments. But I think the 5th place, is it Champions League playoffs they do?
Yeah, you go into the playoff. Yeah,
so you go into playoffs. So it doesn't mean you're guaranteed Champions League football, but again, it is a walk through and can't you say ticket to get into the Champions League. But yeah, that's all I know. But apparently, this is the last season of the current format of the Champions League. So, because next season there'll be lots more teams being added into the competition, that'll probably make it 10 times harder for teams to actually win it. But anyway, thank you everyone that's tuned in this evening. Make sure you go check out this guy's channel, AA Football. His link is in the description below. He's been an amazing guest. I'd definitely love to get you on again at some point. And as well, thank you for everyone in the comments as well. But just want to let everyone know where we can find you.
Yeah, so obviously, well, main channel started off doing football kits. So Talking Kit, if you're into football kits, that was the main channel. But I started off, you know, I do stuff on Saeed, United Stand. And people were asking me, when are you going to actually start doing football stuff? So started AA FC, which is on YouTube. So it's a small channel, only done about 8 videos. New one dropped today on Sancho. Just more football, so United, but not necessarily just United. Talk a bit more about just football in general, really. That's what we love. So yeah, you can find me. That's my Twitter handle and Instagram, AA Football, and yeah, AA FC on YouTube. But I have to say, big up Dan. He's a really good presenter, really good host. And make sure you're spreading the love and subscribing to him, liking his videos, commenting on his videos, and sharing his videos as well, because he's doing good things. I'm impressed. I'm a fan, and that's the main thing. So yeah, big up to you, Dan. You're
I
doing
really
an
appreciate that.
amazing job, mate.
Thank you very much. But anyway, that's been me. Thank you, everyone who's tuned into this evening. And anyway, have a great evening for the rest of your night. But anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you all very, very